Hey, it's Rabbi Shmuel Paulin. I hope you're doing well. We're going to continue with the Kabbala class. This is part number 4. And we're going to talk about the Kav, and Kav means line. Because if you'll remember, first we had the essence of the infinite light. That was God himself and the way he wants to reveal himself just as he is. Then he contracted his light, and he contracted all the possibilities of what he could possibly do and made it into just one little dot. It just so happens that that one little dot also contains infinite possibilities, not nearly as infinite as the original infinite light, but it is an infinite light in its own right. So you have that one little dot that's called the Rishimu, that's a little impression that was left over that everything's been contracted into, but that acts like a blueprint that the architect makes, and then he puts it into a blueprint, and then it comes out as a house or a building. So if we would just have like a rock, we wouldn't really be able to tell that there's a God. But if we see many dots and we see a squirrel planting acorns by accident, supposedly, and it makes a tree, and we see spiders spinning webs, and that becomes an unbelievable thing that we can't even, the spider couldn't possibly understand what he's doing. And then we have trees making fruit, and we can't understand how the tree could be able to do that. We take all these dots, we put them together, and many dots make a line. That's why it's called a line. Because you take all these different events that are happening in nature, put them all together, and you realize, hey, there must be a higher power here. There must be a wisdom here. There must be an architect here that is making all these things happen because we see a certain pattern. And out of the pattern, we take separate instruments and make them into a symphony. So the Kav is pulling out the structure from the dot, which is the Rishimu, through many events happening and us being able to see them all as one collective unit and sum them all up. Another analogy is like a teacher, and he wants to teach physics, and then he gives you only one analogy, the analogy of somebody bouncing a ball on a train, and says that's all you need to know. So that's like the Rishimu, that's like the impression. But then he decides, no, I want to actually teach this to the students, and I'm going to break this out into a course plan, and we're going to learn addition on Monday and subtraction on Tuesday and fractions on Wednesday. And through this structure that we're going to go through, that we break it out into, you're going to be able to come back to understand the original wisdom of the teacher. So you obviously, when we look at everything in the world and the way things are changing, the seasons and all the other changes that take place in nature, we realize that there is a master plan. There's a master designer, which we couldn't find out if we just knew of one single rock, which is the Rishimu. The other thing about the Kav is that it goes all the way up and all the way down. So in ourselves, we have free choice. And our free choice affects and controls our very first thought of how to reveal ourselves, which is like the essence of the infinite light. And it also controls the very last thing we do, like the words that I'm saying right now, the very final result. The Kav is the free choice that goes all the way from the top to the bottom and controls everything. And since it's free choice, it can be anything. So you don't have to necessarily be a Republican or a Democrat. You can be an independent. And you can be able to analyze each situation as it comes and decide what would be best for this particular country, this particular year, on this particular day, at this particular moment. And you could have, real true thought, when it comes to politics, instead of just, following, what somebody else thinks. And you can really, through your free choice, through your Kav, be able to become an intelligent student of politics. And with your free choice, God has also his free choice. And in his free choice, he decides how much he wants to make things tough on us and how much he wants to make things easy on us. To get a change to how difficult things are for you and to get your prayer answered, you have to go all the way up the Kav, all the way into God's mind, into his original thought, and you have to change it there. Sort of like in a construction of a house where the construction workers are building a room that's a billiard room, and the wife comes and says, what is this? I don't want this. And they said, well, we can't change it. You have to go to the architect. She goes to the architect and says, well, I can't change it. You got to talk to your husband. So really you have to talk to the husband because he's the one who told the architect what to do. So the husband will say, oh, I didn't know you didn't want to build your room. She's like, no, I want a guest room. He's like, oh, you want a guest room? Okay, no problem. He tells the architect, they tell the construction workers, and everything gets changed. But to get a prayer answered, you have to go all the way up and all the way down. You have to get yourself on board because you really decided with God when you came down into this world what challenges you wanted. And what's happening is, even when you pray and you say that you want something to change, when deep down, you want things to be the same. You want things to be the way that you planned it out originally. So it's very difficult to get a prayer answered because you have to change your essential nature and change the original plan of what you're supposed to do with your life. And everything has to be changed if you're going to make that one little change. So getting a prayer answered is very difficult, but the only way to do it is either just get lucky. Sometimes you get lucky and the prayer is answered, or you do it systematically and actually understand all these levels of reality and how it traces back to God and go up those levels using the Kav to like that spine that you can go through to go all the way up back into God's mind to change everything that he wants to do, to change his entire plan for you to have this change made. And this is the way that prayers are answered. Sometimes God will inspire you out of the blue, like the Jews had by the Red Sea. The sea was split and they saw prophecy greater than that of Ezekiel. So sometimes God will give you a moment of inspiration, but that's just getting lucky. If you actually want your prayers answered completely, you have to get in touch with your true self and get in touch with God's true self and change the plans all the way up and all the way down. I hope all of your prayers are answered for good. God bless.